Good afternoon and welcome everyone to the School of Psychology at the University of Leicester. So my name's Kevin Patterson and I'm the head of school. So what I'm going to do in the next couple of minutes is just give you a brief introduction to what we're going to do this evening. So we're going to give you a number of useful talks and demonstrations of the sorts of things we do at Leicester. So we'll start by telling you a little bit about what it's like to study at the University of Leicester and what psychology at the University of Leicester and what courses we have to offer. There will then be a short talk on the types of facilities that we have in the School of Psychology and other factors such as our employability ratings and the process of applying to study at the university. And then after that, we have a really interesting and quite unique opportunity for you to hear a taster lecture on a specific topic in psychology delivered by one of our research active members of staff. And that will last about 15 minutes. I haven't seen it, but I'm expecting it to be highly interactive and certainly very informative and educational. And then importantly, what we also have is an opportunity for you to ask us questions, which you're able to do using the chat function in the chat room or able to do live here. To answer your questions, we've got a small team of people, which are staff from within the School of Psychology, but also some of our students will be available to answer questions as well. So huge thanks to Zoe and to Lamia for doing this evening. So I'm hoping you're going to enjoy this. I'm hoping you're going to find it a good experience. Hoping you're going to learn a lot about what we do, what we have to offer, and I'm hoping you'll find that psychology at the University of Leicester is an attractive option. Okay, thank you. So I'm going to pass you over to the next person who's going to speak, who is Dan.
Hi everybody. My name is Dan Hornik, and I'm going to tell you a bit about studying psychology here at Leicester. And why should you choose us? So basically this, I'll talk about our courses and the opportunities that these courses offer. Next slide, please, Susie. Fantastic. So we are housed in this building that you see on the picture. That is the George Davis Center that is recently built, approximately when I came here. And we have a very nice cafe. I just grabbed a very cozy Earl Grey tea that you can grab even close to this time of the day. And we are having a lot of nice lecture theaters in the building. And besides of lecture theaters, we have also seminar rooms where most of our teaching is run, although some of the biggest lectures are held in different buildings across the campus. So our school is ranked quite highly in the UK rankings. We are in the 30s, so we are on position 35 as of 2022 league tables. And we are specifically ranking high on the so-called added value ranking, which is basically that students achieve a higher degree class compared to what they came in, what their entry qualifications were. So this means that students are getting great support from the staff, and both in terms of teaching quality as well as pastoral support that Susie will talk about later. And it is also important that although we have large numbers as first years, most of them are moving towards the second year. So there is a high retention rate from first to the second year. Next slide, please, Susie. Great. So when you're looking at places to study in Leicester, why should this be the choice? Well, we are offering a very broad and also balanced number and type of courses in psychology. And it is both skills focused. So you're going to be, and Susie will talking about in more details, how you can use all these skills that you're learning in our courses. And as I'll talk about a bit later, we are using diverse methods, both in terms of delivery and assessment. So usually you would be thinking, and I'll talk about in more details in the next slides, but important that all our teaching is informed by latest research, including the work carried out by the academics here at the department. And as you will see later, students are going to be able to engage in these research, that world-leading research, through their research projects in their third year. So now I'm going to talk about more details. So next slide, Susie, about each aspect. First, I would like to talk about the actual courses, and there are 3 courses listed. All of them are BPS accredited, what means the British Psychological Society's accreditation, what is very important. So some universities don't have that. So it is important that when you are choosing a BPS accredited course that you're looking for that, whether the school is offering it or not. And all of the 3 courses that are listed here are about that. So BPS Psychology covers the BSc Psychology, sorry. So it's the Bachelor of Science, covers basically the scientific study of people, mind, and behavior. And then we have something that is focusing on cognitive neuroscience and the brain, as well as applied psychology. That is the applications of psychology. Next slide, please, Susie. So now I just flash out very briefly. So these are all the fields that psychology covers. So it is both research methods and statistics, cognitive psychology, personality psychology with individual differences, social psychology, biological basis of behavior, developmental psychology, and the applied fields. So next slide, please, Susie. The way how it is distributed across the years is that in the first year, people are taking core modules. So core courses, everybody is taking the same, regardless of what is their class they entered, applied, cognitive neuroscience, or psychology. And from the second and third year, that's where the differentiation happens. In the second year, most of the classes are still core level classes, but about 50% start to become specialized courses that students can choose. So there are electives based on topic-based courses on one or the other field. And in the third year, there are just 2 core modules, and the third core module, this is dissertation, and all the other modules are selected by the students. So next slide, please, Susie. This is approximately the course structure. Again, I do not want to belabor that. I do not want to go to super big details. It is also important that the names of the subjects that you can see on the screen might change sometimes from year to year, depending on staff availability. But this is giving you a good overview of what are the most likely courses that are going to be offered in the second and the third year. So, for example, if you would be interested in the personality and social environment effects or personality, you might choose those option modules compared to the more brain-focused modules or neuroscience-focused modules. And if you're interested in psychopathology, you would be focusing on the psychopathology-related modules. Hopefully, it kind of gives you a somewhat clearer overview. Okay, next slide, please, Susie. Right, so what I already mentioned at the beginning, that we have a diverse way of teaching things. So it is not just lecture-based education, but we have several seminars, discussion groups, or workshops and practicals where students are gaining skills in the laboratory with statistical program packages, or putting their hands on some physiological measures as well. The way of assessments are also diverse in sense that students are not just assessed with MCQs, how in some big lecture-based modules are, but they are writing also essay-based exams. And besides of that, they are having several home projects that are basically essays or research projects, or even very novel ways of assessments of podcasts or infographics that students do either alone or in groups. So there are both group projects and individual projects, and all of these are feeding into those transferable skills that people can use later in the workplace and the outside world. So the next slide, please, Susie. So here I would also just like to highlight that all of our teaching is based on research. So you are going to be taught by experts in the field, and they are teaching not just their own subjects, but everything that relates to that. And as a result of that, you're not going to be able only to learn about these things, but put your hands on it and actually do research with these individuals through the dissertation project in the third year. And it has been also, there were examples in the past that students were able to publish their dissertations in leading journals in the field after their dissertation was done. So you are going to be part of not just simply learning about the subjects, but actually active participants in discovery of new findings in psychology, what is important to highlight. Probably one more slide, and again, I'll just quickly like to wrap it up what I already said, that there is a synergy between teaching and research, and that's what kind of the most important aspect and the leading aspect of our department is. Okay, so I think that Susie is going to be next. I might have taken a bit too much time.
Well, I think you're all fine, Dan. Okay, hello everyone. So my name's Susie, and I'm a lecturer here. I've been here for about 8 years, and I'm also the programme lead for the Psychology with Cognitive Neuroscience degree. So I want to follow on from what Dan was talking about and tell you a bit more about studying psychology at Leicester and why we think it's a particularly great place to be to study psychology. So I'll touch on these aspects. So I'll tell you a bit about some of the opportunities that we give our students. I'll talk about some of the support that we offer our students, because that's a particular strength we believe our school has. I'll talk about how we support careers and helping students to find their careers whilst they're here, how we embed employability and the skills that employers love graduates to have within our courses. And finally, I'll just mention what the next steps would be to go about applying to Leicester. Okay, so a couple of the opportunities that we have here, you can have the opportunity once you're here to take a year out between your studies, between second and third year, to take our year abroad or year in industry options. So this is where for the year abroad, you take a year out and you study either psychology or another subject at one of the universities abroad, so in some of our partner places. So we've got some partnerships across the world, some in the Netherlands, we've got Australia, USA, Canada. I've got a third year personal tutee who just spent a year studying in Japan, and they've been so pleased with the whole experience that they're now looking to do a master's in Germany after they graduate. You can also opt for a year in industry. So this is where you take the year out again and you spend a year working in a working placement, and you get paid just like a normal kind of person. And so both of these give you great experiences whilst you're studying your degree as well. And you don't need to decide on whether you want to do this before you come here, before you apply. It's something that you can decide on whilst you're here and then move on to that program whilst you're here. So it's something that is you might want to consider whilst you're looking for universities to apply for, because not all universities offer these kind of options, but we do here. So it gives our students those extra kind of exciting experiences. So as I said, we really pride ourselves on the support and the level of pastoral and academic support that we offer our students. We've been praised by the BPS for having a high level of support. So when students first arrive with us, we have a dedicated tutor to help people to transition from college level studies to degree level studies. Everybody's allocated a personal tutor as well. So this is someone that you can always go to with whatever kind of issues or questions you might have. Each year has their own year tutor as well. that oversees everything. And we have a School of Psychology help desk, which I actually ran today, which is just like a drop-in support session for academic support that runs every day during term time for an hour. So if you need any advice or support with an assignment or anything like that, you can just drop in unannounced and just get the support that you need. So within the wider university, so we have our own psychology society, the university has the students union, and we've also got support services for like career development and student welfare as well, which you have access to as well. So as I said, yeah, the British Psychological Society gave us particular praise on the support that we've got. So we feel that this is a real kind of strength of ours. And students have told us that they found real value in this as well. So we've got like a bit of a quote here saying how they received the great personal support from the staff in the school when they were here studying psychology with us. Okay, so we also try to emphasize employability, and we try to embed a lot of transferable skills within the courses and within the different diverse assessments that we include in the courses as well. So transferable skills, they're all the skills that, as I said, employers love graduates to have, and they're skills that will apply to a really wide variety of careers. So basically anything that you go to do afterwards, such as research skills, IT skills, data handling, critical thinking, group work, self-reflection, all of those kind of things. And sometimes the careers development service staff come into some of our lectures to deliver some of their kind of support on the careers as well. So we just wanted to emphasize that these are the kind of skills that our graduates have said they feel they really developed whilst they were studying psychology with us. So again, these are all those kind of really important transferable skills. So this is just to emphasize the point that we feel we embed this in the course, and graduates have told us that they feel they've really benefited from this. So we feel that this is kind of a successful approach to take. So presentation skills, leadership, teamwork, all these kind of things, skills that you really need when you leave university and develop your career. Things that you can develop with us. So talking about our graduates, like what do they go on to do afterwards? So this is just a selection of what our graduates have gone on to become in their careers. So cognitive behavioural therapist, HR manager, business analyst, forensic psychologist. So you can see there's a really wide range of different careers that people have, and that's quite a strength of psychology as a subject. It does prepare you for a lot of different things, it doesn't really constrain you that much. And there's a selection there of some of the companies that our graduates have gone on to work for. So in terms of the careers and advice and support that we offer, so within the school, we have our own dedicated careers tutor. And we have kind of timetabled sessions each week where you can get drop-in help and support from a careers advisor, and like regular kind of advice about how to search for careers and how to develop yourself in terms of the career that you want to have. So we also have within the wider university our kind of careers development service who offer one-to-one appointments. So they can look through your CV, they can coach you if you want a particular application putting in, and these can be done kind of in person or online. So there's a lot of different kind of support that we offer. And there's also regular kind of opportunities as well. So job opportunities, placements, and also like jobs fairs, so that you can, if you're not quite sure of what you want to do when you leave university, you've got that kind of those opportunities to really explore things and try and see what is out there for you. Okay, so this is kind of a summary of why we think it's a great choice to choose to study psychology at Leicester. So some of the things that Dan touched on. We have kind of the broad skills focused curriculum. We have diverse methods of teaching and assessment to suit lots of different people. We're strong in our teaching and research, and we put them together to make sure that we're teaching the most kind of cutting edge content. We add a lot of value to our students. There's great opportunities for research, and we teach you those skills that you put into practice in your final year. Our school and the university as a whole is made up of a very diverse kind of student and staff body, which makes it feel really, really great to be a part of. And we've got really well developed support systems that people recognise are really effective. And we offer a degree that will prepare you for lots of different careers. So, as I said, you don't need to take our word for it. We've got a testimonial from a graduate who's now in the Home Office doing a great job, I'm sure. So she said that she met brilliant and inspirational individuals at Leicester, had an amazing time socially, and developed skills which have led her down the path of a successful and enriching career. So we wanted to give the last word on our course to our graduates, because they're the most important people and they're who we work so hard for. Okay, so hopefully I've encouraged you that Leicester is a great place to study psychology, and maybe you want to put in an application to us. So these are the kind of entry requirements that you'll need to study psychology here. If you do have any other qualifications that aren't listed on this slide, don't be too put off. If you're not sure whether you'll qualify, please do just email us on the email address on the slides, and our admissions staff will be able to advise you. Okay, I just want to say a word about your personal statement and what kind of things you might want to put in it for an application to us. So things like briefly saying why psychology interests you, why you'd like to study it at university level. If you know what career that you want to do, how does studying psychology, how would it help you with that career? And give a basic overview of some of the relevant skills and experience that you might have that apply to the course, and try to include some brief evidence to support the things that you say. So those kind of things would make an effective personal statement for us. Okay, so if anyone has any questions on anything that we've said so far, please do put them in the Q&A, and we have staff available who will answer them. Or you could get in touch with us if you've got any questions at all at the email address there, so psych-recruitment@le.ac.uk. Okay, so that's everything that I wanted to say. So thank you very much for listening to me. And I now want to hand over to Professor Sarah White, who's got a short taster lecture for you, and one of the aspects of psychology that Sarah specialises in. And yeah, so I'll hand over to her.
Okay, brilliant. So I'm going to be talking to you today about the topic of eye movements and how we can use our eye movements to understand how we read. Usually when I start off a lecture, I would be linking into the other classes on the course, helping everyone to understand how it all links together. Today we're going to have really just a very quick introduction to help you understand why we want to study topics like visual cognition and reading, and also to get you to think about this question of at any one time, what can we really see? And then we're going to apply that concept to understanding what happens when we read. Okay, so usually at the start of my lecture, I would also be linking to the intended learning outcomes for the topic, linking to the reading list, and also linking to online resources that the students can work through. So here I've just taken some screenshots from one of my lectures this semester, so you can see that in addition to the lecture slides online, they can also access little activities, the reading list, things that can help them begin to prepare for the assessment as well. And they always like to give them extra little activities to really help students kind of consolidate their understanding and learning, and to kind of also push them a little bit and get them to think more broadly about the topics. Okay, so let's go on to this tasted lecture then, and the specific topic today. So first of all, my aim is to try and convince you of why it's really interesting and exciting to study the topics of visual cognition and reading. So first of all, in terms of visual cognition, so probably today you've done all sorts of everyday tasks that you didn't even think about, but that actually involved a huge amount of really complicated processing of the visual world. So for example, that might have involved reading some text, chopping some vegetables, navigating, being in a social situation. All of those tasks would have required you to coordinate the visual input from the real world, your motor actions, linking to your prior knowledge, linking to the tasks that you had to undertake. And so as psychologists, we're really interested to understand how we're able to perform those kinds of tasks, and especially how we're able to coordinate all those different aspects of kind of cognitive processes together in order to do what might feel like an everyday easy task, but things that are actually really quite complicated to process. So in terms of why we should study reading, so here on the screen now, you've got a quote from a book that was written a long time ago now by someone called Huey. Huey explained that to completely analyse what we do when we read would almost be the acme of a psychologist's achievements, for it would be to describe very many of the most intricate workings of the human mind, as well as to unravel the tangled story of the most remarkable specific performance that civilization has learned in all its history. So I really like this quote because I think it really sums up why reading is such a fascinating topic for psychologists. Again, there's so many kind of cognitive processes that are involved in this, and by untangling those, we can really have a fascinating insight into how our brains work. And also, we must remember that we don't have any sort of genetic predisposition for reading, so this is something that we have to learn, actually put quite a lot of effort into learning how to perform this task, and so it also gives us an insight into those kind of learned specialized processes that we're able to conduct as well. So therefore, by studying reading them, we can have an insight into how we can perform a specialised complex skill, how we can develop specialised systems for things like visual word recognition, and also how we can specialise and coordinate a really broad range of different processing systems. So here we've got a list of examples of the various processing systems that are involved in reading, like attention, visual processing, word recognition, language comprehension, linking to prior knowledge. All of these things are potentially involved. You can see from the image at the bottom of the slide here, all the various different brain areas that are involved when we read. So understanding how we coordinate all these things together can really give us a really fascinating insight more broadly into how our brains work. But in addition to those kind of academic reasons for studying how we read, there's also really, really important kind of applied reasons. So first of all, literacy is really essential in modern societies. So from secondary school onwards, reading is the primary route for acquiring new knowledge. So having really good literacy is really important for skill development and knowledge development. And also literacy really contributes to socioeconomic success and human experience. So if you just reflect on the ways that you've used reading in your daily life today, you can see how being able to have a good level of literacy will have really contributed to your ability to perform a whole load of really important tasks, ranging from education to employment to kind of social aspects as well. And the key thing is that by undertaking work in the laboratory, this can be really, really helpful in terms of helping to optimise methods for teaching children to read, for improving approaches to tackling reading difficulties, and also finding ways of optimising text display formats. So, for example, on electronic devices, and particularly perhaps optimising text display formats, perhaps for those who have visual disorders as well. So hopefully so far then, I've convinced you that understanding visual cognition and reading is really important in terms of understanding from an academic perspective how our brains work, but also really important in terms of ultimately that research having really important real world applications as well. So what we're going to go on to focus on now is this question of, at any one time, what can we really see? Okay. So probably when you look at a beautiful picture like this, you probably have the impression that you can see the whole picture in lovely detail all at once. But that's not actually the case. Okay, what's actually happening is that you're moving your eyes around this scene, and each time you pause in a particular part of the scene, you're getting a little really detailed snapshot of that particular part of the scene. Then you move your eyes quickly, something we called a saccade, and then you pause again, what we call an eye fixation, and again you get another beautiful little snapshot of a little bit of the scene. So you can see in the image at the bottom here how you're effectively getting each of these little snapshots, and then effectively what your brain is doing is stitching these all together to give you the impression that you can see everything in beautiful high levels of visual detail all at once, when actually that's an illusion. You can't do that. Okay, so in order to help convince you that this is the case, we're now going to have let you experience a little illusion. So I'm now presenting an image on the screen. And what I'd like you to think about is how many dark spots you can see at any one time. Okay, you might also want to reflect on how many dark spots you think are actually in the image as a whole, but how many you can see at any one time. And so when I do this in the lecture theatre and I get responses from the class, people are telling me, okay, so we've worked out that there's kind of 12 dots on the screen, but we've realised that we can't see them all at any one time. Depending on where people are looking, they might think they can see maybe 1, 2, 3. If they look within a quadrant of kind of 4 spots, you might just about be able to make out those 4 spots. And so I'm not going to go into great detail about how this illusion works, but essentially you're only able to see those dark spots if you're looking directly at them or quite nearby. So you need those spots to fall within either your central vision or just outside of your central vision in order to perceive them. And so this phenomenon really demonstrates the fact that at any one time you're only able to process a particular part of the visual world in great detail. So again, we have this subjective impression that we can see everything in great detail all of the time, but it's just an illusion. Instead, what happens is that we can only see a small part of the visual field in great detail. And essentially, it's that part of the visual field that is projected onto the back of the retina and falls in an area called the fovea. So the fovea is an area at the back of the retina here, which is absolutely packed full of photoreceptors, and essentially the large number of cells in that region enable you to see the information there in a high level of visual detail. And so essentially when we're reading, what we do is we move our eyes around the page such that we can get all those little snapshots, all those details, stitch them together, and we have this impression that we can see all of the text in great detail all of the time, but actually we're just stitching these separate images together. So essentially we make a series of pauses of the eyes that last about 1/4 of a second, and then in between that these really fast eye movements that we call saccades. So this, hopefully you can see the animation that's on the screen now. And so this is giving you an idea of what's happening when we're reading. So the eyes are moving to the different words. They might often skip over short words, perhaps look twice at longer words. The eyes might move back in the text when we've got a comprehension difficulty and you need to reread. So hopefully you can now see this animation. So this gives you an impression of actually what information our brains have available when we're reading. So again, rather than that impression of everything being beautifully visual detailed all the time, instead what's happening is you're getting this series of snapshots with really detailed information in the center, which becomes more visually degraded towards the outside of our vision, and essentially our brain is stitching all these together so it feels like we're seeing everything in great detail. Okay, so I'm just going to do another quick little demonstration to help you think a little bit more about what's happening with our eyes and how we perceive the visual world. So at the moment you can see a spot on the right hand side of the screen here. So in a minute I'm going to present some letters around that spot. And what I would like you to do is try as hard as possible to keep looking at that spot and don't move your eyes, and just try to attend to each of the letters separately. So keep looking at that central spot and then try your best to attend to the different letters. Okay, so when we do this demonstration in the lecture theatre, what we find is I ask the students to tell us if they're able to keep their eyes really still, or if they feel like, despite trying really hard to look at the spot, they find that their eyes are kind of moving to the different letters they're trying to attend to. And basically, the vast majority of students say, yeah, I'm trying to keep my eyes really still, but my eyes are moving to the letter that I'm trying to attend to. And the reason for that is because of this really clear link between shifts of attention and movements of our eyes. Okay, actually, this is incredibly helpful to us as psychologists, because what it reflects is the fact that where people look tends to indicate what is being processed, and how long people pause for tends to indicate how difficult it is to process that particular word. So what we can do is we can look at people's eye movement behaviour, for example, when they're reading a sentence like the one shown on the screen. In this particular example, we were manipulating the difficulty of processing one of the words by making it appear much more faint. And then we can compare their reading times on those words as a function of their difficulty. And because attention is so critical in determining where people move their eyes, this really gives us a fascinating insight into what is processed when during reading. Okay, so to summarise then, hopefully in this session I've convinced you that visual experience is an illusion. Although we might feel like we can process everything in great detail all of the time, actually we can only process a small part of the visual field, and instead our brain's just really good at stitching together all of those visually detailed snapshots. Hopefully I've also convinced you that there's a strong link between attention and eye movements, and that means that eye movement behaviour can provide a really fascinating insight into what we process when. Also, hopefully you will remember how when we're doing tasks like reading, what we're actually doing is coordinating together a whole range of different processing systems. So for example, when we read, we've got visual processing, attention processing, the language processing, linking to prior knowledge, for example. And so by studying the mechanisms that underlie how we read, we can really begin to understand how those different processes can be coordinated together. And I really think that, that can provide a fascinating insight more broadly into how our human brain, works as a whole. And finally, hopefully I've also convinced you that research in this area has really important practical implications. So for example, we can use these methods to better understand the mechanisms that underlie people who have difficulty reading, or people who have visual disorders. And ultimately that work also has implications, practical implications, for things like how we teach people to read, or how we can display text in its most optimal format. Okay, so we've come to the end of this taster lecture. Hopefully it was very quick, but hopefully giving you an idea of the kinds of topics that we sometimes teach in our courses, and also the approach that we try to take as well. So I'm going to stop sharing my slides, and I'm going to switch to Andrew, who is going to chair the final bit of the Q&A, I think.
And I've now turned my microphone on, so I can introduce myself again. I'm Andrew Young. I'm the person who's been answering your questions in the Q&A. One of the things that has come up is a number of people have been asking about the the year abroad and year in industries. And we're very fortunate to have Zoe here, who has just come back from doing a year in industry. So I'm just going to hand over to her very briefly to just give you a very quick summary of her experience of it. We've only got a very short time, Zoe, so I'm limiting you to a minute.
Hi everyone, I'm Zoe. I'm a 4th year student now. I answered in the chat that for my year in industry, I was a support worker, specifically for adults with learning difficulties. So that role kind of entailed helping them with their day-to-day life, shopping, eating, washing, all that kind of things, helping to enrich their lives. And I did that for just over a year, and I was very fortunate in my role. I got promoted because the company liked me that much. So I really do think it's a great opportunity for progression, and I saved a lot of money as well. So that was a really good plus. But if anybody has any other specific questions, feel free to ask them and I'll answer some more specific questions. I'll hand back to you, Andrew.
Thank you, Zoe. Yeah, so there's you can ask questions in the chat room, but obviously we're coming quite close to the end of the session. So I'd emphasize, I hope you can see the screen, that the psych recruitment at le.ac.uk is a really useful email address that if you've got any questions to follow up anything that's come up today or anything that hasn't come up today that you've got questions on, if you email that comes straight through. This is the school's recruitment team. It'll come straight through to them, and it'll probably be myself or one of the other people sitting here who answer it. I'm in charge of the recruitment side of things, so it'll probably come through to me to answer it. And so if you do have any further questions, please email them in that way. I'm just looking at the discussion board and nothing else has come through. There was a question about some master's degrees, and again, we do offer master's degrees here, both on campus and distance learning. The best thing to do to get details of that is to email us at that address, and we can give you much more details on that, including the cost, because the cost depends on where you are. I'm not sure that there are any more questions coming in. I think the other thing I would say, and I'm not sure whether Zoe picked that up, is that the finding placement, if you want to do a year in industry, the university gives a lot of support on that. And importantly, one of the notes that Zoe has put in the chat room is that all the sort of risk assessments and everything, you get a lot of support from the university on that. So it's something that that we're very keen on developing, and that the university is supporting us very strongly with. And with the year abroad, the study abroad, you can either go to some partner universities and do psychology, or many other people go to other universities and do a different subject completely. So again, there's a lot of flexibility there. Importantly, you don't need to make the decision before you apply. You can make that decision once you're here. During the first year, that's when you would make that decision. So we're coming close to the end of this. I can't see any more questions coming into the chat room, so I'll say thank you all for attending. I hope you found it useful. I hope it's answered your questions, and I hope to see you in Leicester next year, or the year after, or the year after that. And thank you all also to the team who have given some very informative and interesting talks, and to our 2 students for coming along and again supplying the students' view of what goes on here.